Free speech is not about liking a person's opinion. It's the opposite. Free speech is about not liking a person's opinion and still allow that person to have their opinion. That's very different from hate speech. Hate speech is about inciting violence towards a person or a group of people. Hate speech should never be tolerated. I agree with that. But free speech, we need free speech. Because without free speech, what we have is tyranny. So without further ado, we're going to be reacting to Piers Morgan. Piers Morgan is upset with Elon Musk because Elon Musk has just reinstated Alex Jones back on Twitter. He's not very happy. He calls it disgusting. So let's see what Piers Morgan has to say.
I'm a passionate defender of free speech. There's a massive clue in the name of this show, Uncensored. And I believe in it. I believe that all honestly held opinions, however offensive they are, belong in the open, where they can be challenged, debated, and exposed. But
I agree with that. I agree with that. Seriously, I agree with that. Everything that he just said, that's exactly it. Regardless of how offensive a person's opinion is, you still allow them to express their opinion. And if you don't agree, you take them to the public square, you challenge them, you debate them, you prove them wrong, and that's where it ends. That's it. That makes perfect sense. That's exactly what free speech is all about. All right? People should be allowed to express their opinions, however offensive you find them, and then you have the chance to go out there and debunk them. All right? I agree with that. So what's the problem then? What's the problem, Piers Morgan?
But there are limits on free speech. There are laws, and there is a line. I've always said that Alex Jones is a perfect example of where that line got crossed. He's a conspiracy theorist and shock jock in America who made hundreds of millions of dollars by peddling outrageous lies that the Sandy Hook school massacre shooting was a hoax. For the uninitiated, this is him shouting at me a week after that massacre on CNN.
The tyrants did it. Hitler took the guns. Stalin took the guns. Mao took the guns. Fidel Castro took the guns. Hugo Chavez took the guns. And I'm here to tell you, 1776 will commence again.
Why is he shouting? That's one thing I don't like about Alex Jones. He doesn't have to shout. Maybe that's his style, but he doesn't have to shout.
If you try to take our firearms, doesn't matter how many lemmings you get out there on the street begging for them to have their guns taken. We will not relinquish them. Do you understand?
He kind of won that debate, actually, because the only response in America to the Sandy Hook massacre was to do nothing. In fact, they continue to sell a lot more guns. 1 million new guns get sold in America every month. And there are already over 400 million in circulation. So if you're wondering, if you're curious why there are so many more mass shootings in America than there used to be, that's why. And if you're wondering what's going to happen in the next few years...
Stop it, Piers Morgan. People kill people. Guns don't kill people. You need a person to pull the trigger. All right? So it's people who kill people, not guns who kill people. All right? I'm sorry that the West is degenerate. I'm sorry that the West promotes degeneracy. Of course, if it promotes degeneracy, the byproduct of that is to get degenerate people. And everything that the West promotes is degenerate. It's violent. It's sexual, immoral when it comes to sexuality. So yes, but even then, it's the majority are not out here killing people. Even with all the degeneracy that the West promotes, the majority are not out here killing people. So you're absolutely wrong with that. Guns don't kill people, people kill people.
As 1 million new guns enter circulation and nothing gets done to stop mass shootings, my guess is there'll be a lot more mass shootings. I've covered a lot of them, especially when I was at CNN in America. Very few of them, in fact, none of them, actually, were as soul-crushing as Sandy Hook. 20 children, aged between 6 and 7, were murdered by a mass killer with a semi-automatic AR-15 rifle. Alex Jones's reaction to this absolute appalling atrocity was to tell his followers on his InfoWars show it was all a government hoax set up by the Obama administration, a deep state plot to justify new gun laws that would take away their guns. He said the grieving families were all crisis actors.
Sandy Hook, it's got inside job written all over it. Sandy Hook is a synthetic, completely fake, with actors, in my view, manufactured. I couldn't believe it at first. People just instinctively know that there's a lot of fraud going on. But it took me about a year with Sandy Hook to come to grips with the fact that the whole thing was fake.
So, that's his opinion. Remember what he said at the beginning of his show. He said, however offensive. And of course, some people found that offensive. That's his opinion. Nevertheless, it is his opinion. What you're supposed to do is what he actually did. He brought him into his show. That's the public square. And he challenged him on his opinion. That's it. But that's what you get in a society that has free speech. Not everyone's going to believe in the same thing. Not everyone is going to agree with the same thing. So you can't say that that's a good enough reason to cancel him because you found him to be insensitive, you found him to be incorrect, you found him to be wrong about something. Yes, he was wrong. You brought him into your show, you challenged him. That's what free speech is all about. And then people will make up their minds as to who they believe. But as far as I can see, it's not about how I feel about what he said. It's about he had a different opinion from everyone else. That's it. That's not a good enough reason for you to call it hate speech just because you didn't like his opinion, just because you found his opinion to be insensitive.
Well, as a direct result of his lies, those grieving families were harassed and threatened with death by his followers. Erica Lafferty, daughter of the murder principal, Dawn Hochsprung, got death and rape threats from people who said her mother was fictional. Robbie Parker, who lost his daughter Emily, was chased down the street by a Jones supporter asking him how much he'd earned by lying about the death of his daughter. Mark Barden, father of 7-year-old victim Daniel Barden, says that one of Jones's followers urinated on his dead son's grave. Some of these families have successfully sued him now for defamation, which is explicitly not protected by America's First Amendment. Jones was ordered to pay record damages, more than $1 billion in total. He's yet, of course, to pay a penny. He actually declared himself bankrupt to avoid doing so. Nevertheless,
I received death threats. I'm sure Piers Morgan has received death threats. I'm sure Alex Jones has received death threats. I'm sure Elon Musk has received death threats. Harassment. You listen. Piers Morgan is acting like he's not on the internet. He's acting like as if he doesn't know how people react on the internet. Yes, I'm sorry to say, but that's how people are on the internet. People are going to have different opinions. People are going to harass you. Who doesn't get harassed on the internet? Who doesn't get harassed? Who doesn't get death threats? Seriously. If I even receive death threats, I've received, of course, not as much I'm sure Piers Morgan receives, but this is what I'm trying to say. But that, just because there was the family received harassment, which is appalling, of course, it's wrong. That I would never condone that. But human beings can be pricks, idiots, mean. It's just the truth. But you're not going to sacrifice freedom of speech because the family received harassment. That doesn't make sense for me. That doesn't compute. Because they received harassment, let's ban freedom. Let's ban people that hold a different opinion. Because they received harassment, when we all know that everyone on the internet that has a different opinion from another person is likely to receive harassment from people? Come on, man.
Elon Musk has inexplicably decided it's time to restore Alex Jones to X, formerly Twitter. I'm a big supporter generally of Elon Musk. I think the work he's doing to eradicate bias and protect free speech in the place where so many debates now originate is an important, very important one. But this was a profoundly disappointing and wrong decision. I'd like to remind Elon what he said about reinstating Alex Jones when he first took over. He said this. He said he wouldn't restore him and said, "My firstborn child died in my arms. I felt his last heartbeat. I have no mercy for anyone who would use the deaths of children for gain, politics, or fame." Well, that is precisely what Alex Jones did. He literally used dead children for gain, fame, and politics.
Wrong, Piers Morgan. You don't know what that man's intentions were. You don't know, because you're not Alex Jones. You were not feeling what he was feeling. You don't know if he was driven by politics, fame, and money. You don't know that was the driving force behind why he decided to disagree with the Sandy Hook massacre. You don't know that that's the reason why he decided to make that video and have those opinions. You don't know. Maybe he thought that he was doing the right thing. Maybe he thought that this was definitely a hoax and that the American people would benefit from hearing that this was a hoax. Maybe that's what he thought. What you can't do is say, this is why he did it. And the fact that Elon Musk decided to reinstate him back on Twitter just shows that Elon Musk had the sense of realizing what I'm saying right now, which is, you know what? I don't know what that man was thinking and feeling at the time when he made that video. So it's wrong for me to say that he did it for those reasons. Because he might have had the best intentions. So you can't judge him that way. You really can't. Piers Morgan, you're wrong for that.
So what's changed in a year, Elon? Well, there's now a big movement to rehabilitate Alex Jones online. Many argue he's right more often than he's wrong, when all the evidence points to the complete opposite. And in the case of Sandy Hook, it wasn't just one little mistake that he owned up to. Andrew Tate tweeted, "Alex Jones is an effing hero." Really? He's not my kind of hero. He's the opposite of a hero. This is a man who repeatedly and deliberately lied about the mass shooting of children at school to enrich himself. He called it all as phony as a $3 bill, and yet that's what he is. Yes, he's now apologized, but he did that under legal duress because his business was about to go to the wall. This wasn't something he blurted out once and instantly regretted. He did this for years, and every time he lied about Sandy Hook, he made more money, night after night, day after day, week after week, month after month, year after year. And he knew what was going on to these families as a result of his harassment on air. To see him back on X, selling his book, his merchandise, his website, his info wars, frankly, makes me want to puke. Every opinion should be heard, but inciting harassment and violence to profit from unspeakable grief, to pour into the wounds of those families yet more misery and pain, that's not free speech. It's deliberate hate speech, and it's disgusting.
I disagree. I don't think he was inciting violence towards those families. I don't think that's what it was. I think he gave an opinion, and clearly Piers Morgan doesn't like his opinion, which is absolutely allowed to. He's allowed to not like a person's opinion and is allowed to express what he thinks about his opinion, which he's been doing for quite a while now, by the looks of it. You don't see people saying, "Oh, you know what Piers Morgan is doing is inciting violence towards Alex Jones." No, because that's his opinion. So to say that he was inciting violence towards those families when he said, no, I think this was a hoax. And what is a hoax? A hoax is usually carried out by who? By actors, right? Exactly. So that's what he meant. All right. And if he was wrong about the whole thing being a hoax, prove him wrong. That's what we do. What we don't do is cancel him. We don't cancel him. He didn't call for the murder of those people. He didn't say go out there and kill those people. He never said nothing like that. He just thought that the whole thing was fake. He's allowed to think that. Guys, we have to protect freedom of speech, because if you don't protect freedom of speech, what you have is tyranny. If freedom of speech gets reduced to, gets restricted by how people feel, they feel this way, therefore, we have to cancel that person. If it's to do with that, then you will not have any freedom of speech. I'll give you an example. I don't agree with a certain group. I don't agree with what they believe in. All right? They take offense to that. Should I be canceled? Should I be canceled? Okay. All right. Another group comes along. They take offense to another thing I say, to what someone else says. Should they be canceled? If it's based on feelings, if freedom of speech is only based on how people feel, then you will not have freedom of speech. Freedom of speech cannot be based on how people feel. Because if that group is bigger than you, is more powerful than you, they can say, you offended me, and because they're bigger than you, they're more powerful than you, guess what? Society will listen to them rather than you, and you will be cancelled. Regardless of how small you are, how big you are, freedom of speech should not be based on people's feelings. When it's based on people's feelings, anything could be regarded as hate speech. Anything could be regarded as hate speech. All right? We need to protect freedom of speech, guys. I hope you enjoyed the reaction. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And I'll see you next time, guys. Peace.